Welcome to the Sheckler Spotlight, where creativity meets purpose and conversation goes deeper. Join host Harrison Sheckler as he sits down with inspiring guests from all walks of life, artists, thinkers, musicians, and everyday heroes, to explore the stories that shape us, uplift us, and connect us. Now here's your host, Harrison Sheckler.
Hi, I'm your host, Harrison Sheckler. Today's guest is someone whose voice, songwriting, and heart for worship has left a profound impact on the Christian music world. David Leonard is a Grammy-nominated, GMA Dove Award-winning artist, producer, and worship leader. He got his start playing in the band Jackson Waters and later toured with Need to Breathe, but many of you will know him as one half of the critically acclaimed duo All Sons and Daughters, a group that brought us powerful worship anthems like Great Are You, Lord, and Christ Be All Around Me. Since stepping into his solo career, David has released deeply personal and reflective albums like The Weight and The Weight Silence the Noise, and has continued to impact the church and listeners worldwide with songs like Good Lord, Every Hour, and most recently, Just Jesus. He's also a creative force behind the scenes, co-founding The Creek Music and working with artists like Brandon Lake and Cody Carnes. But more than all the accolades and collaborations, David is someone who is clearly passionate about using music as a way to help people experience God in a real and personal way. The spotlight is now on you. David Leonard, welcome to the podcast.
That's the most amazing introduction I've ever had in my life. So.
You can just take the recording and just hit play wherever you go.
Yeah, I'm gonna get you to send me that in a PDF file and put that on the website.
Hey, there we go. Well, hey, that's an honor of you for you saying that. I appreciate that. So I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
Well, I'd like to begin, and this is how I begin with all my artists. I really want to hear in your own words, how did you get into music making? Like, what is your origin story?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I grew up in the church. My dad was like the music pastor, college pastor, youth pastor, but didn't play anything. Like he didn't play any instruments. My grandma played the piano and organ, and like my earliest memories are like watching her play. And then when I got to high school, I had some friends who started a band, and I went and watched them play, and I was like, I want to do that. I was like, I don't care what I have to do. I want to do that. And I ended up talking them into letting me be in the band, and I haven't stopped being in bands since then. So definitely I wouldn't be doing this without those guys. And yeah, they put the bug in me.
So you were it was Jackson Waters, right? And then
not even that band. I will never tell you what that band was called, but it was pre-internet, so you'll never find it anyway. So it doesn't even really matter. But
okay. But
yeah,
then
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so then you went to Need to Breathe, and you have like this journey of collaborations with other artists. How did that influence like your pursuit of Christian music? And exactly who were the influences? You said you're part of the church, but how did you dive into Christian music specifically?
Well, I mean, I grew up on Christian music. I loved DC Talk, Audio Adrenaline, all that stuff. Like back in the day, I mean, I grew up in the church, so I was like, that's what you were listening to.
Mm-hmm.
And worship wasn't a thing. Like I like that wasn't like a genre yet. Worship was more just the guy on Sunday morning that was like up here directing the choir. But yeah, I don't know. I've always kind of been drawn to uh, what you really feel and what's going on in your life. And obviously, I feel like the things that are bubbling up inside of you are the things that are going to flow out of you whenever you go to create. Sometimes, a lot of times it was relational stuff on the beginning when I started writing songs. It was a lot of that stuff because that's as a 16-year-old kid, that's what your life revolves around. It's like my girlfriend and whether this is going to work out or not. And it didn't work out. But, I think you get older and you start to lean more into your relationship with God, and those were the things that just poured out of me whenever I was creating. So, um, and then I just fell in love with what it meant to help people connect deeper and more personally with God through music. And so that's why I've kind of dedicated my life to that, of creating songs for other people and helping them find the language to be able to speak that, and putting out my own stuff at the same time.
What I think so awesome about music is that, it can express what words necessarily can't on their own.
Yeah.
It's that medium that just resonates with the world. People from all different backgrounds, but sometimes when you have that support for music, it just kind of brings things to life. And I see that and hear that in your own music. So um, I'm curious, when how do you specifically approach like songs for the church, like verse songs that reflect your personal faith journeys?
I mean, a lot of stuff for church, like I try to write for specific congregations. That's why, All Sons and Daughters Days, we were writing for Journey Church. We were writing
Mhm.
for the congregation we were part of. Even now, when I'm writing church stuff, it's very specific to different churches and congregations that I'm working with or writing songs with, and even for my own church, like Life of Jesus that we wrote, I Believe It, that John Reddick put out. Like we wrote that for Church of the City. Like
Mhm.
that was specifically written for them. Um, Coming up on Easter, it was like one of those songs, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is his radio song. He's gonna run with it, and all this craziness. And so I've come to realize that especially writing church stuff, like if you're not involved in church stuff, if you're not involved in a community, it's really tough to write songs for, and even thinking global church, like it's don't think about the global church, like make a smaller community, think about the smaller community, because if it resonates there, it tends to resonate other places too. And um, I think that's the thing, is like you tend to put your eyes on these big stages and all these things, and really when you kind of sum it all down, they're little pockets of people anyway. So, you know, I would make it more potent, make it more focused towards a certain group of people, and then just see what happens. We don't need to dilute anything anymore in order to fit in with a bunch of group of people. We need some stuff that's got some stronger proof to it.
I love that. It kind of reminds me of, an artist who is, so Oliver Anthony,
Yeah,
the artist, he was writing about the people close to home, and
yeah,
all of a sudden it just blew up. I think it's when it becomes really personal and resonates um with with just, the common people, that is what is going to tug at the heartstrings and really just like blossom, like what you were saying. And when we kind of make it too broad of a casting too broad of a net, we're not really, it's too surface level is what I'm trying to get, if that makes
yeah,
sense. So I think you're diving deeper and really seeing the humanness of the community around you, which I think is really cool.
yeah.
um so specifically with your songwriting process, I always ask this with artists because it seems like every single person I ask has a different process. Some people are like, I'm super inspired by art or nature, and I'm out and about, or maybe it's something someone said during their day. Like, what is David Leonard's songwriting process?
Oh, dude, I mean, every day's different. It's like it could be something I saw driving in. It could be a conversation I have with my wife and my kids, or standing out in the hallway drinking coffee and somebody says something. I was writing with Pat Barrett was in here a month or so ago, and we were just talking about um, well, the studio was like a giant, you know, like it was just a tough thing to walk through. It was like permits and rezoning and all this kind of stuff. And like so it was like we almost gave up on it 10 times. And he was talking about some stuff he was doing that he was kind of feeling the same way. And he was just talking. He's like, man, dreaming the dream is kind of the easiest part. And it was just
Hmm.
like, oh. It's like, okay, hold on. It's like we need to write that today. And we wrote it, and it's like unbelievable song that I have no idea what'll happen with it, but it's been so meaningful. It's just like stuff like that. It's like, it's the littlest things that you never think are going to be anything, and then all of a sudden they're like sparks a song or, um, creates a new way of life for some people.
So are you one of those artists who just has a huge catalog of unreleased music, or are you like it comes to you and this you pump this song out and you're like, yep, that's what I produced and it's out there.
I mean, no, there's tons of songs that you never heard ever, that I've
Yeah.
written with other artists and myself and all the things. Yeah, no, there's tons of stuff in there that probably doesn't need to be heard too. So,
It's sometimes it can just be a personal thought for the day.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no,
sure.
it's interesting because some people say, yeah, no, I mean, I pumped out 10 songs and those were the 10 songs I wrote. And then some people are like, I wrote over 100 songs and we picked the best 10. I think that's usually the case, right? You pick out the best out of the hundreds you write.
I mean, a lot of times we did a record for the Jonathan and Melissa Helser, and over the 5 years since they had released their last record, when we got time to do that, they were like, we wrote 12 songs, and these are the 12 songs that are going to be on the record. And it was like, okay. And they
Yeah.
were all mind blowing. Like that, it was like, okay, yes, they're insane uh, writers and just people, and so they're the only people that I've ever been around that have been like, we wrote 12 songs. This is what it's going to be, and it worked.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the majority of times is we overwrite and then we sum it down.
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't think people realize what all goes into the writing process. They just see the pretty final product and they're like,
Yeah,
wow, these guys are genius. But behind the scenes, you're working your butt off
yeah,
trying to pump something out that's just really, really good and resonates. So
yeah.
tell us where you are right now, because you mentioned before we started that you're in a studio and
Mhm.
what kind of fun things are you doing today?
Oh, working on some Josh Baldwin stuff today.
Yeah, I love it.
We did a record for him last week. We tracked it, and then I'm gonna put some keys stuff on it today. And so it's just adding the candy.
Yeah,
But
the
yeah, that's
candy.
just kind of normal. That's a normal day, just working on random records and things like that.
Yeah, and you said you came in the morning, you're drinking your coffee, and then you're discussing the world's problems, solving the world's problems, right?
I doubt it. I don't think we're solving anybody's problems. We're probably adding more problems to it. But no, it's fun. We love getting together all the mornings. This place is kind of revolved around community, like people coming in and out, and we just love that, you know, like the old man at the coffee shop kind of vibe. Everybody's sitting
Yep.
around and just chatting. So uh, I wouldn't I wouldn't get rid of it for anything.
I love that. I'm from Charles City, Iowa. It's a small town of about 7,500 people.
Okay.
Currently, I'm in Kansas City. That's where I'm based now. But Charles City, we have this awesome coffee shop called Aromas, and I mean that's my childhood coffee shop. So if anyone says like, "What's the best cup of coffee?" I said Aromas.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway, every morning there is this group of like 20 old men and then their wives at the table. And it's kind of funny because they separate the room and they are solving the world's problems. I mean, and I think some of them listen to this. So if I'm saying this, saying anything offensive, but we always call them Main Street City Council
Oh
because,
yeah.
yep, they know what's going on in small town Iowa and they know everyone's brother, cousin, sister, and
Yeah.
they know how one should go about something,
Yeah.
solve a problem. And it's always really funny. Actually, I think someone should write a song about Main Street City Council because I think it'd be a hoot.
Great idea.
Yeah, yeah. But no, I love those small town vibes. Growing up, like you as a kid, like personality wise, you seem personally like what I've seen is you're kind of soft spoken. I mean, you're great at performer, but
Mm.
were you always like that? Were you always just kind of like this laid back dude?
I think so. I don't know. That'd probably be a better question for my sisters or my parents, but I think so. I think I've been pretty chill my whole life. Um, I don't know what it is, but yeah, I think I
Just
probably said.
going with the flow.
I don't know if I necessarily go with the flow. I think deep down there's a bubbling volcano of emotions in there, but I think I can be perceived to be calm, cool, and collected. But
Well, you definitely kind of have that vibe. Going into your music, how does your collaborations like how what is the process of doing solo work compared to collaborative work? Like, do you see a difference or do you approach it the same way?
no, it's the same way for me. I mean, I think it's, sometimes it's very blatant, like, oh, we should do this with this person, or something comes out at the 11th hour and it's like, hey, we should get him on or her or whatever. It's like, it doesn't matter. And I don't, I'm not always thinking collaboratively from like having people on the record, but like definitely from a songwriting, I'm writing with people all day. Like that's like a no-brainer to me. Um, but from getting people on a record or whatever like that, it's like it's just it changes all the time. It's like sometimes it's really easy to see, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, and because nowadays everybody's on, everybody's records. So
Right. Well, and I think you've worked with it seems like every Christian artist out there. You have quite the credits lined up. Is there an artist you haven't worked with that you would just love to work with someday?
mm, I mean, I still haven't done anything with Toby yet. I'd like to do something with Toby. That'd be fun. But I always talk about I want to do something with Vince Gill too. I love Vince and
Oh, he's so good. And I
love what
loved
he's.
his tour with the Eagles.
I was there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I took my dad. Yeah, I'm a huge Eagles fan. So
Yeah, my dad always says he wished if he had a second job, he could have been a roadie for the Eagles. I mean, they're
tough job.
timeless.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's it's so good. And then like their whole when they were in residence in Las Vegas at the what is that, the Sphere? Oh
Yep.
my gosh, that I only got to see videos of it, but that would be cool. Well, speaking of like venues, is there like a dream venue that you would love to perform at that you haven't yet?
I mean, the Sphere would be pretty sick.
Yeah,
I,
do the Sphere.
uh, yeah, I don't know. I've gotten to perform in a lot of really cool places. Maybe like a Radio City. I haven't got to
Mm.
do um, Red Rocks. I still haven't got to do Red Rocks. I'd love to do that, but that's probably about it. That's probably about it.
When did you realize in your career that, well, one, that it could actually become a career? Like, what was that
Still don't know if it's
telltale
a career.
moment?
I still
Hmm?
don't know. I still don't know if it could be a career. I'm still trying to convince myself that I'm doing this. It changes every day.
Well, was there one big moment where you're like, wow, this is going pretty well. This is might be something.
No, I think it's just time. I like because this thing moves so fast. It's like
Yeah.
you work on something and then you're on to the next, or you're trying to figure out if something else is even going to come in. So it's like this constant state of really high highs and really low lows, and it kind of keeps you even keel in it. Um, I mean, I think I am blown away that I'm still doing this 20 years in, being in this town. Been making music for the last 35 years, which is crazy to think. Um, but to still be here, to still be doing this, like I don't take it for granted. Like my
Hmm.
dad always used to say, love what you're doing while you're doing it. I always thought that was the stupidest thing. It's like, of course I love what I'm doing. But it's like the older you get, you realize that like, all this stuff is kind of precious. It's like not every situation is always the same. Every record's different. Every song that we write is special and has its own thing. And so I just tend to kind of hold it loosely, but appreciate every ounce of what I get out of it.
No, I think that's a great mindset to have. And it can be really a daunting and hard road. I mean, like I said, there's so much of a grind to becoming a musician. So a little bit about my background. I have a doctorate in piano performance, and I'm also a
Oh, it's like,
college professor. I'm in the music world, more in the
yeah,
academic side, but it, it, for me, it was grinding. Like in high school, I was practicing 6 to 8 hours a day, just trying to learn some Mozart,
amazing.
and yeah, and doing all these competitions. And then, you know, when someone sees, they see the final product, kind of like what we were saying about you and your writing process. They see me at my best, performing, but they don't see all the hard work that goes into it. But it can be really draining if it's not your passion. And I tell all my students that they really have to love what they do if they want to have a so-called career in this. And
Yeah,
then they also have to be willing to adapt, because in this day and age, so I've said this to others. So, like in the 20th century of music, the way to have a career is you would win a big piano competition, and then you would get signed by a label, and then you would have this tour. That was just kind of like how it worked. Now
yeah,
in 21st century, everyone has um, access to, a phone, and they can just put it up and record themselves, in their living room. And then somehow it goes viral. And then, they could be an independent artist. Maybe they'll get signed, but you have to also you have to make your own career path, is what I tell them. And so, like, some of my students want to be directors of music at churches. So I'm also a director of music at a church.
yeah.
Um, they want to teach in grade school. They want to, be a composer or write, or they do all of it. And it's not like putting the walls up and being super narrow minded, because I think in this day and age, you have to be able to like find different avenues. And that's also actually, I mean, I'm sure you've seen this too, is with collaborations. When work with different artists, like I'm telling my students to not work with just classical music
Yeah.
minded people, but with others. And it's been really cool. But yeah, no, I try to really encourage my students to find their own path, but be open to kind of what God, is putting into their lives, and saying, hey, you have this track that you think you want to go on, but I kind of want to pull you in different directions. And sometimes just being open to that is really important.
100%, man.
So with your new music coming out, what are you excited that's coming out? Well, you recently had an album in February, just Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Like, how did that come into fruition?
Man, I mean, that was a record that I worked on for the last couple of years. Yeah, a lot of songs out of, um, a lot of struggling of going, God, where are you? Walked through a bunch of different things and with family, lost multiple grandparents had to pass away, which were near and dear to us, kind of our rocks in a lot of things. And had my daughter had some health stuff that we walked through, and it's just not been the easiest of seasons.
Mm.
And but a lot of these songs were kind of birthed out of that of realizing the more and more I look back, the more I see that the hand of God has been with me through all of it. Um, and the simplicity of going, man, sometimes all I really do, I try to fill it and try to fix it with all kinds of things in my life, but really the only thing that I need to fix this is my relationship with Jesus, and putting my hope, my faith, and trust in the fact that He does see me, He loves me, He knows me, um, and which is an easy thing to talk about, a harder thing to do.
Hmm.
And so that's where this record kind of poured out of.
With some of these struggles that you mentioned, what were some of the doubts that came to be? Because I think a lot of people go through those, but to hear someone like you say, "Hey, I struggle with this too, but there is a way out." Like, What was the process of coming out of some of those struggles?
Well, I mean, I was sitting with a guy the other day, and we were talking about, you know, belief and things like that, and he's he's on a journey of his own, trying to figure out, where he sits with all this stuff, I think even me talking about like, hey, I grew up in the church, I've seen it all, been a part of all of it, and there's still days where I'm like, I don't, I don't know if the Lord sees me or loves me or wants me a part of the like. I was like, I still feel those things, and I think that's the thing is like, I think the world is really just looking for people to be vulnerable and be honest with how they feel. I think the Christian faith, I think the walk of having a relationship with Jesus is not as easy as just like, yes, life is good, all this stuff. Like I think there are more people who are struggling and feel alone in that, and because we simply continue to be like, well, it's going to be better. It was like, yeah, it might be better, but sometimes it doesn't. And are you willing to walk it out when it doesn't? And and I think you know, I think the rest of the world is just looking for people to be honest with them about that, of going, hey, because I think everybody can get behind this idea of like, yes, do we want to believe in something bigger than ourselves? We want to believe that there's something that is in control of all of this. And we want to believe that there's someone who loved this place so much that they would give everything up for it. And that's that's what I'm trying to learn more about in that of what does it mean to follow Jesus? What does it mean to truly share your faith and to talk about the good and the bad and and be able to show the love of Christ through all of it.
I think that's a great outlook, and it kind of puts things in perspective for people. A lot of people are having the same questions and doubts, myself included.
Yeah,
Grew up, in the church, and I'm in the church, but the doubts come honestly every day. But it's a daily choice.
yeah,
Like you said, being a Christian is probably one of the hardest things you can embark on. One of
yeah.
the hardest choices, and it's a life journey. So if you day by day, if you're choosing, just putting it up to God and saying, God, I don't have the answers. I won't have all the answers, but if I put my trust in you, one, that takes a huge weight off of your shoulders because you're not carrying this burden of having to figure everything out. I
Yeah.
mean, like I said, who really has all the answers? You can listen to all the podcasts, you can read all the self-help books in the world, but
I mean, there's a
really,
lot of people who think they have all the answers. But that's the thing is like we have too many people who are very sure in a lot of different things, and it's like I'm not sure we should be so sure.
I
Like
I agree.
I think there's beauty in the mystery of what this is, and I think that's what burns a lot of people is when you tell people for certain of things and then those things don't happen. Like it takes your credibility and it throws it out the door.
Mhm.
So being able to be like being able to sit with people in the mess of all of it, um, it goes a long way. So I just I want to make sure that I'm a person who's able to be honest with where I am, and that's a lot of times through songs, um, and be true to that thing that I feel like God continues to remind me of, which is showing that He has been faithful. But we have to be reminded. Like I have to remind myself of that every day. It's like being married. It's like you choose every day to be married. Like we could go blow up the life today if we wanted to. Like, but I will make a conscious decision to be in this relationship. And it's the same thing. Like we have to make a conscious decision to be in a relationship with God. And sometimes it's easier than others. Um, but I feel like it's worth it.
I love that. That is great advice and a great outlook on life. You
Mm.
mentioned your family. How does family play into your faith journey?
Mm. Well, I mean, I feel like I've learned more about God through the eyes of my kids than I have in anything, you know. And it's just from the simplest of things of just like feel like it's just a great and I'm probably doing this in order to try to make sense of all the things that I think about God, but like when they come to me or things like that, like I think about that kind of thing of us coming to God with things and the amount of love that I have for my kids uh, is far less than the amount of love that the Father has for each and every one of us. And um, I don't know. I'm thankful for my girls. I'm thankful for my wife. Grace and grace has become a real thing because of them, because of things that we've walked through, and it's just allowed me to learn and trust and love the Father more.
I love that. I always love it when people bring up their kids because it's definitely a new learning experience going through fatherhood. And I personally haven't experienced it, but I
Yeah,
want to give you an opportunity. So you said you have two girls, right?
yeah.
Yeah, brag about your two girls. What what are some of the, or just describe the two of them. What excites you about them?
Oh, well, they're both crazy.
Yeah.
Um, I say that while one is staring me in the face right now.
Oh, I
Uh,
love that.
no, they're awesome. There's so much energy, so much joy. There's so much like I don't know, just to it. Like they have life in them, and I think I love that the most. And it makes you want to be young, and so I don't know. I love them. They're awesome.
It's one of the best life paths that you could take is being a father and having that role. I'm
Yeah,
sure you see that, and
yeah,
maybe one day that's in store for me. But I think that's
yeah.
awesome that you have that family that's there to support you and along the journey and inspire you too. I
No,
think.
I didn't say they supported me. I didn't.
Oh, no,
No, just kidding.
she's probably looking at you, Dad. Say the right things.
Yeah.
I love that though. Um, you talked also about having this need to be vulnerable, and how would you say, like, how do you try not to put up walls in your daily life and be vulnerable with others? Have you really thought about that?
Um. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I know what it means to um whenever I talk to somebody and they share what's going on in their life, it makes me want to open it up
Hmm.
and share about what's going on in mine. And so I don't know. I don't have time for the surface level whatever. I would much rather talk about real things and real things that matter. And um, yeah, I don't know.
Well, I'm curious because you're really in the depths of the Christian music industry, and you can plead the fifth on this if you want to. But at least maybe, what are your hopes for Christian music in the future and the trajectory that it may be on?
Mm. I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot of good in it. I think there's a lot of people who are writing real songs that are impacting real lives, and I think that's always kind of the desire is like that people can stay in their true selves, that they can write things from real things that they're walking through, um, and be real testimonies of who God is in each and every one of our lives. And I think that's where we're headed. I think it's going to be a lot more honest. I think it's less focused on saying the right things and more saying the things that mean something to you. And I don't know. There's a lot of great voices coming up, and a lot of people who are doing amazing things. And so there's lots of high hopes.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting, and artists, you try to be careful because you try to not necessarily alienate your audience if you have different views on, certain topics, of course, because you want to resonate with a lot of people. I guess the hard thing is probably balancing, what speaks to you, what truth is to you. And
Mhm.
especially when you're in a Christian music world, you're already kind of, put into a box of like, well, they believe something. They at least believe in God and Jesus, right? But then even within that box, there's a lot of different beliefs. And we kind of touched on this. I'm curious, how do you balance being true to yourself and like in the decision making process of what you put out, and then also when you see people who are maybe making it more of a commercial endeavor, like do you see the struggle, or what has been your experience with that?
I mean, yeah, but I can't. You can't judge. That's like it's that's the tough part. Is like it's really easy to look at somebody and be like, oh, they don't believe what they're talking about.
Mm,
But you have no idea what's going on in their life. You don't know where they've been. You don't know what they've walked through. So, um, I think it's less trying to judge the heart of another man and trying to find where the good is in each and every one of the things that get puts out because, the Lord can do anything he wants to with anything. And so I think it's more that of just going, hey, like where the people that I am involved with, the people that I do life with, how can I encourage them the most to be themselves and help them do that and um, let the other things work themselves out.
yeah, no, I think that's a good way to look at it. And it's something that I've had to go through and learn myself. So, okay, for one, I come from a Catholic background, right? And so the Catholic Church has a very um, strict set of ideals, that they think the church should go. And
Sure.
um, but I also have, so like my mom's Catholic and my dad's side's Methodist, and so I see both sides, and realizing that people come from like these different experiences, like you were saying, and meeting them where they're at is huge. And I've seen that in my upbringing where, there was one point where I was totally more so uh like a Pharisee. You know how the Pharisees were all about it's rules and you got to abide by the rules, and if you break that one rule, then, too bad for you. You're a goner, right? And find like walking that tightrope and then realizing, hmm, maybe when I look at others, I'm supposed to not judge because the only person that can judge is, the one up there. Um, but if you rather judge, but you discern, you know, maybe this person, I'm not going to judge you for what your beliefs are or your actions, but I'm going to discern right from wrong. And then having a conversation, I think it's opened up like a huge opportunity for dialogue. And actually, I think that's me personally, when you're talking about like the trajectory, I think we're getting into a season or so of people talking more, being a little bit more open. Because right now, the United States and everything and the world's conflicts, they're so divided, and it seems like we're all on one side or the other. But I do think it's going to be going in a direction of where people are going to have more dialogue. And I
Yeah.
think you're going to see truth shine out more. So moving forward, at least that's my hope for
Yeah.
the future. Um, I don't know if you see the same way or have any thoughts on that.
Sure.
Yeah. Plead the fifth, right? Yeah, I think it's you just kind of have to meet people where they're at and go from there. It's a hard process, but it's a learning process for all of us. So, okay, going back to your music though, I want to know. So we talked about the album, but what are you excited for coming out now? And you're working all these great collaborations, but what are you excited about?
I don't know, man. I mean, um, I'm just excited to still be doing this. I don't know. I think I'm open-handed with this. It's hard to kind of predict where things are gonna head. So I feel like I created a record that I really love, and I'm hopeful to see what will happen with that. I'm excited about the music that I'm recording with my friends and the songs that I'm writing, and so I'm just kind of I'm soaking that in, enjoying it, and having fun.
And then you're going to be touring, right? So tell us about that.
I'll be out on the road some this year. I'm out with Big Daddy Weave later on in the year. But yeah, just kind of in and out throughout the rest of the year. And I always love getting to go out and share the songs. It's always a blast.
What has been some of the reception from, your fans and the people that hear your music? Have you heard any personal experiences?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you'd be surprised by every story that you hear. You're like, I can't believe that, you know, people actually listen to this stuff. I can't believe that like, shapes their worlds, but it truly does. And people like these are the soundtracks to people's lives. And they put it on when they're walking through hard stuff, and they put it on when they're going through good stuff. And um, I'm continually blown away that people find the music, especially in a day and age where there's just so much music to be found, and then they keep listening to it. So, yeah, I'm grateful. I love getting to go out and meet new people and hear the stories, and I'm never surprised by it. It's like it's always just like I'm never not surprised by it. It's just like it continually blows me away the things that I get to hear.
I think that something that you can be really grateful for, and it keeps you humble too. Just having those surprises every time, because your music does touch people, and I think you've seen that and you've heard it a billion times. But I mean, that's why I wanted to have you on the podcast, because you're such an influential person in Christian music, and you're making your mark. But your words and your lyrics and the way that you express your personal experiences, and like I said, being vulnerable is huge, and it resonates with us. And I mean, I don't know I'm sure you've heard it, but I don't know if it's really set in for you. But like, I want you to know from, one of your fans personally that it really resonates with us. And, we really appreciate you just writing this awesome music, because it's something that I think that the world needs to hear. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you. That means the world to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we're coming to the end of our podcast.
Okay.
And what I do with all of my guests is I do a rapid 1-minute round of questions, to give a little more insight. You ready for this?
Ready.
Okay, let me pull up my list and pull up my timer here. Okay.
All right.
You ready?
Yep.
Here we go. Okay, what is your favorite hymn of all time?
Amazing Grace.
Do you have a go-to coffee order?
Americana Black.
Nice. One artist who deeply inspires you?
Oh man.
I know it's hard to pick one.
Tom Petty.
There. Okay. Do you have like a pre-show ritual?
No. No.
What's one thing fans would be surprised to learn about you?
I love to sew.
What? Okay, that's cool. What's one song that brings you to tears?
The Men Who Drive Me Places by Ben Rector.
Okay. City you love performing in?
Any.
In one word, what does worship mean to you?
Surrender.
Surrender. And there's our 1 minute. I like that. That was fun. It gives us a little insight into the character description of David Leonard. I appreciate it. Well, hey, I really appreciate your time. I know you're a super busy guy. You're doing all these great things. You're in the studio recording with awesome people, but it's just been a pleasure to, get a little more insight onto David Leonard, your process and your outlook on life. I love what you're doing. God bless you in your ministry. And, just thanks for being on the podcast. I really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. You're awesome. Great questions. All the stuff. It was awesome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Sheckler Spotlight with your host, Harrison Sheckler. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, follow, and share the show with a friend. New conversations drop regularly, so stay tuned. And thanks again for listening and being a part of the journey. Follow Harrison Sheckler on social media and visit harrisonsheckler.com to learn more.